we're telling Nova Scotians, stay out of the woods.
Newfoundland, Labrador, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. I'm surprised PEI hasn't jumped on board yet, because of course PEI is one of the most liberal provinces. And so here's an interesting point. Can you remember back to 1989? Well, I can. We never talked about climate change in 1989. It might have been something the Club of Rome talked about, or the Bilderberg saying, hey, how can we control people in the future? Well, get them terrified about global warming, because that's what it was in the beginning. Recall, folks, it wasn't called climate change because that was too nebulous. It was called global warming because everyone said, oh, the temperatures are rising. But as soon as that didn't look like it was actually happening, the term became climate change. And so why didn't Canadians need climate lockdowns when they had 12,000 wildfires ranging in 1989? That's a lot higher than today. The highest ever recorded in Canada by far. Now think about this. Nobody said, hey, there must be some nefarious reason for these wildfires. It's got something to do with climate change. And now, of course, all we hear is that the wildfires that are burning right now, largely in Atlantic Canada. You don't hear anything about Alberta this year. Remember last year, Alberta was the scene of climate change in action. And you see the mainstream media constantly say, this is the new normal. Well, if that's the new normal, it's a lot more it's a lot more normal than it was in 1989, 36 years ago. Absolutely fascinating. And so in Nova Scotia, agencies issued 10 tickets worth more than $25,000 each to people allegedly violating burn restrictions. So that's how it started in Nova Scotia. So, and a lot of people have said, hey, Newfoundland and Labrador, it's just about the burn. Yes, so far, until Premier John Hogan jumps on the climate change bandwagon and says, hey, we have got to stop people from hiking in the woods, walking even going past the yellow tape. That's got to change. So that's, of course, where it started in Nova Scotia. From Tim Houston, conservative Premier Tim Houston. Of course, he's a conservative in the same boat as Doug Ford, meaning not really. Faux conservative, red Tory. So here it is. Nova Scotia has issued more than $288,000 in burn ban fines. So what was this about? Obviously, because 10 people got tickets, the Premier decided to punish the whole province. And that's where it went from burning restrictions to hiking restrictions. And I tell you, people don't believe this around the world. But Canada, once again, is taking the lead in insanity. And that's the only way I can describe this. Now, what is causing all of these wildfires? Now, I was thinking this morning, one of the causes of fires used to be cigarettes, cigars, especially in the home, but also outside. People would leave a lit cigarette, would drop a lit cigarette on a path, and it would start a fire. With about 20% of the population smoking now on a regular basis anyway, I would say that's hardly going to be a major cause of anything. And if you look at the causes, in 2007 to 2023, 1,144 cases of arson, number one cause of fires. In a Nova Scotia, this is the Nova Scotia report. Are you reading me here? Arson, 46 cases of lightning. But interestingly enough, even though there's been 46 cases of lightning, that doesn't seem to figure. Because here's the Nova Scotia government disconnecting with itself. And by the way, we took your advice seriously here when you said you want more research. We'll do more research. And thank you for the advice. Lightning figures in 0% in this same Nova Scotia government report. I thought it was 46. Doesn't that add up to at least 1%? Probably 10% or more? No, it's 0% because there's such a madness amongst governments to blame every wildfire on climate change. Why? Well, because it's part of the narrative. And it's an opportunity to say, oh, if we don't, if you don't stop using fossil fuels, if you don't stop heating your home, freeze in the winter. Isn't it preferable to freeze in the winter than have a wildfire in your backyard? That's the mentality of these governments. When in fact, freezing in the winter will have absolutely no impact on whether or not there's a wildfire in your backyard or in your neighborhood or in your town or in your province. And this is their own statistics that demonstrate how crazy the statisticians are. They can't even admit. And here we are, forest fires and lightning. The federal government report, 51% of the total, 45% of all fires. The federal government even acknowledges that lightning might have something to do with wildfires. But they never mention that when they talk about, well, we can see what these wildfires mean for Canada. So clearly, it's going to mean successive years of wildfires increasing in intensity, getting worse, impacting more Canadians, and it's all because of climate change. And their own reports are suggesting otherwise. It's arson and lightning. Now, Marty up north, always helpful. Annual forest fires have been trending down for 40 years in Canada. Trending down. Now, just a minute, folks. If they've been trending down, why are we being told that it's getting worse and it's going to continue to get worse because of climate change? And that you can look forward to all of this horrendous spate of wildfires getting worse every year. And the statistics say that. And despite the fact that we've doubled our population, authorities are reporting every imaginable fires, even the ones in campgrounds. So that's, you're going to start a fire in your campground? Hey, that could be a forest fire. That's how crazy it is. And guess what, folks? Remember last year, it was Alberta's fault? Oh, Alberta, the home of all those fossil fuel production, the home of oil and gas. Alberta's getting its just desserts with those wildfires because it doesn't take this seriously. Nary a mention of wildfires in Alberta this summer because there haven't been any. They've been getting rain. And I guess that seems to have satiated these wildfires that were generated supposedly by climate change. And thank you again to Marty up north for that. Now, how is the federal government, how are provincial governments responding to this so-called crisis in wildfire? What are they doing? Well, this is absolutely fascinating. The only funding that has increased has been in Alberta and Ontario. Funding hasn't increased anywhere else. So if this is such a crisis, why are they not allocating funding towards solving the problem? Because they seem to think it's nothing more than a tool to promote what climate change agenda. And this, I think, shocks me more than anything else that I'm showing you today. This is absolutely horrendous. But this is where we are at in this country, because people don't believe government agencies, government spokespeople don't even believe what they're telling you because they know it's politics. And this is what it comes down to. And yes, are homes being devastated, burned up by wildfire? Are people dying in some cases? Are people being injured? Are businesses being destroyed? Are livelihoods being destroyed? Yes. So you would think the government would do something in response to that. But here's what I'm telling you today. The governments are using the wildfire crisis to justify their own idiocy. Now, what does this all come down to? Woke politics? Yes. But I saw an interpretation the other day of what DEI really means. And of course, what the governments will tell you DEI means is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is code, of course, for identity politics and essentially, in many cases, racist politics, because it divides people amongst gender, ethnicity, race, and creates artificial boundaries, creates arbitrary distinctions between people. And this is why Donald Trump is crushing DEI and saying it's not going to have a place in government. And if it has a place in your university, you're not getting funding. If you expect us to support you as a government, get rid of your DEI policies because they're bogus. They're idiots. DEI really means deflection, evasion, and incompetence. That's what DEI promotes, and that's what DEI is all about. And remember that the next time somebody says to you, "Oh, don't you support DEI policies? Don't you realize they're about making it more equitable for people?" Tell them it's about deflection, it's about evasion, and it's about incompetence. Here, I showed you that. Now, here's the last plank in our study of the wildfire phenomena and what it really means. Here's the exposed part. Federal government so concerned about wildfires. Oh, they're going to get worse. They're going to make life miserable for Canadians. They're going to be a fact of life from now on. And as we saw, they were worse 36 years ago than they are now. Somehow we got through it then without blaming this phenomena. How many firefighting aircraft? These are water bombers. And and being in the Air Force, we used to have an air show at Comox every other summer. And I think the last one I was involved with was 1997 or 98. Could have even been 99 actually. And we used to have a water bomber fly over and it would drop its load on the grass surrounding the runway, and people would just be in awe. So how many water bombers do you think the federal government has? Zero. How about BC? BC should be concerned about all of its green growth. And no, zero. Ontario and Alberta, once again, are leading the country in firefighting aircraft, just as they were in funding to combat wildfires. Huh. Alberta has 18, Ontario has 20, Saskatchewan has 17. Nova Scotia, 4. New Brunswick, 12. And I'm missing Newfoundland, Labrador. Where are you here? Oh, yeah. 0. So Newfoundland and Labrador has 0 of these things. So that's the state of affairs here with how governments really consider wildfires to be a clear and present danger, an existential threat to Canadians. What they really consider wildfires to be is a justification for climate change policies, for net zero policies. That's how they use wildfires. And I think that is not only dishonest, it's potentially bordering on criminal, because they were allowing wildfires to get worse, and the worse they get, the more they can say, we were right. This is all about climate change. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I am going to keep this station on the air. I am going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth, because that's all I have left. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible, as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. And that's why we're here today. I'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 a.m. This has been David Krayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.
You can't handle the truth.
Resolve to resist